The grand hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with murmurs of confusion. Rows of alien dignitaries, reptilian, insectoid, avian, and gelatinous, stared at the holo display projecting the latest military directive. The human silence protocol. Immediate tactical retreat recommended. A heavy-set reptilian delegate scoffed, his scales shimmering under the dim council lights. This must be a joke. Humans? Silent? Another ambassador chittered. They are the loudest creatures in the galaxy. Their war songs alone nearly ruptured my species' auditory organs. At the center of the chamber, General Srathok of the Krillin Dominion stood, exuding overconfidence. His crimson uniform gleamed, his chest puffed out in arrogance. He smirked and spread his 6 arms wide. Surely, we are not entertaining this absurdity. He let out a guttural chuckle. Humans are fragile, chaotic, barely disciplined. Their tendency to shout and bicker in battle is the very reason they are inferior. Why then should we fear their so-called silence? Across the table, Admiral Grashk, an old war veteran with cybernetic limbs and tired eyes, exhaled through his mandibles. He swirled a drink in his metal cup and leaned forward. Because Ixrathok, he rumbled, when humans go quiet, it means they've stopped playing. The chamber fell into uneasy silence. Let me tell you about the Battle of Zarthos Prime. Zarthos Prime was a desolate battlefield, its sky choked with smoke and debris. The Krillin war machine, backed by the Galactic Council's finest troops, had launched a devastating invasion. The human defenders were outnumbered, outgunned, and most importantly, loud as hell. I've got 3 ugly bastards on my 6. Anyone got a clear shot? Hey, do Krillins even have a 6? Looks more like a 7.5. Shut up and shoot, Johnson. The comms were a constant stream of chatter, banter, insults, complaints about rations, and heated debates over who had the worst commanding officer. The Krillin forces assumed this was sheer disorganization. Pathetic, General Ixrathok sneered, watching the battle from his command deck. They lack discipline. They treat war like a social event. Meanwhile, human music blared across the battlefield. Some soldiers had their external speakers blasting rock and metal. Others synchronized their attacks to war drums. One particularly reckless squadron hijacked enemy frequencies to play an old Earth song called Another One Bites the Dust. Ixrathok rolled his eyes. See? These primitives have no sense of strategy. Admiral Grashk, stationed nearby, was not so sure. He had fought humans before. He had seen them joke through pain, laugh in the face of death. He had seen their camaraderie hold the line when logic dictated they should retreat, but even he wasn't prepared for what happened next. Because suddenly, the humans stopped talking. No jokes, no insults, no music, just silence. Srathok smirked. Finally. They've realized their doom. Grashk's mandibles clicked in unease. He knew better. No, he whispered. They've realized it's time to be serious. Within minutes, the battle shifted. Human units, previously scattered and rowdy, moved in eerie synchronization. Their attacks became precise. Their movements methodical. The chaos was gone. The Krillin forces noticed too late. The humans weren't retreating. They were hunting. And the silence? That was their war cry. The Krillin infantry had been confident, at first. After all, humans were loud, undisciplined, and seemingly incapable of taking anything seriously. They had spent the last 2 hours listening to Earth soldiers bicker, joke, and complain across the battlefield. I'm telling you, the Chili Mac MRE is top tier. You're insane. Beef stew is the only edible one. Everything else tastes like regret and cardboard. At least you guys have choices. My wife was supposed to send me new socks 3 months ago, and I'm still out here rocking holes in my boots. Damn, Steve. Maybe she's trying to tell you something. The Krillin troops had laughed at the humans' lack of discipline. Even their tactical comms were a mess. One squad had hijacked an open frequency to broadcast Highway to Hell. Another was arguing about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. The Krillin commander, a high-ranking officer named Gortan, had dismissed the idea of human strategy entirely. They cannot possibly be a true military force. They treat war like an entertainment event. And then, silence, no jokes, No arguments, no complaints about foot fungus or missing care packages. The only sounds on the comms were short, cold acknowledgments. Copy. Moving. Confirmed. The shift was so sudden and absolute that the entire battlefield felt wrong. Gortan turned to his second-in-command, a young officer named Riktosh, who shifted uneasily. Did their radios fail? Riktosh muttered. Few Krillin grunts laughed nervously. Maybe they finally realized how hopeless this fight is, one joked. Another, a seasoned veteran named Casimir, wasn't laughing. His antennae twitched. His claws clenched around his rifle. No, Casimir murmured. This feels wrong. Gortan frowned. The silence felt unnatural. The humans were rowdy, by nature. If they weren't making noise, it meant something had changed. And then all hell broke loose. The first explosion came out of nowhere. A Krillin forward operating post, previously fortified and secure, erupted into flames. The sentries didn't even have time to react. One moment they were scanning the battlefield. The next they were gone. Then came the sniper fire. One shot, one kill, over and over again. A Krillin comms officer slammed his claws against his console. Where did they go? Why can't we see them? Gortan spun wildly, scanning the battlefield, with enhanced optics. The humans had disappeared. Not literally, of course, but their reckless, noisy movements were gone. No more shouting. No more stomping through the mud. Instead, the only signs of their presence were bodies dropping and shadows shifting. A panicked Krillin scout barked into his radio, his voice shaking. They're hunting us. Like predators. Gortan's blood ran cold. He had underestimated them. Before the humans had been playing. Now they were at war. General Exrathok's forces were no longer retreating in formation. They were running, panicked, desperate. And that's when the humans started getting creative. The first trap came when a squad of Krillin troopers stumbled upon a cluster of abandoned human radios all still chattering. Hey, anyone seen my socks? Man, I swear I just saw a Krillin trip over his own feet. Dibs on their rations when we take 'em out. Enraged, the Krillin soldiers opened fire, only to realize the radios were unmanned. The voices were pre-recorded. Moment later, the real humans struck. A second squad rushed toward a supply drop, desperately hoping for reinforcements. They pried open the crate, only to find it completely empty, except for a single handwritten note inside. Nice try. Then a grenade rolled in. Another Krillin officer was found duct-taped to a wall inside a captured bunker. He was still alive, blinking in confusion, with a sign slapped onto his chest that read, "Return to sender." The final straw was when someone, in the human ranks, hacked into enemy comms and started broadcasting Fortunate Son at max volume. Who is doing this? Exrathok bellowed as the song blasted across all frequencies. His officers had no answer. Their morale was crumbling, their forces scattered, terrified, and utterly confused. And worst of all, the humans were still completely silent. "They're in the shadows," a Krillin scout screamed. The Krillin forces huddled together, scanning the darkness with wide, terrified eyes. The humans were no longer launching loud, overwhelming assaults. Instead, they struck like phantoms, one at a time, a single knife through the dark, a single shot from an unseen sniper. Another squad vanished entirely, their last recorded words being, "Wait, did you hear that?" The silence was worse than the battle. Some Krillin swore they saw movement in the dark, shapes shifting just outside their vision. One officer completely snapped and started firing wildly into the air, shrieking, "They're everywhere!" The last of Exrathok's forces regrouped in a final desperate attempt to hold their ground. They still outnumbered the humans. Surely superior numbers would save them. And then, out of nowhere, every single human soldier laughed at the same time. Deep, rumbling, unsettling laugh that echoed through the battlefield. One of the Krillin dropped his weapon on the spot. Another whispered, "Oh no." Then, just as suddenly as the laughter began, the humans disappeared again. And the Krillin knew they were doomed. General Exrathok sat trembling inside his command bunker, his claws gripping the edge of the table. His forces were decimated. His officers, missing. His best troops, scattered or dead. And then, his bunker door slammed open. Grathok spun around, heart hammering. One lone human stood in the doorway. A massive marine, built like a walking tank, cracked his knuckles. He grinned. "So, the marine said, stepping forward. "Who wants to go first?" Grathok immediately raised his hands. I surrender," he stammered. "The battle is lost. I will order my forces to stand down." The marine chuckled, shaking his head. "Oh, buddy," he said, rolling his shoulders. Then he grinned wider. "We're just getting started." The Galactic Council chamber was dead silent. Admiral Grashk leaned back in his seat, rubbing his temples as the weight of his tail settled over the room. The once confident representatives of the galaxy's most powerful species now sat wide-eyed and pale, their various appendages twitching in nervous terror. The overconfident General Xrathok, he was no longer the smug, arrogant warlord who had scoffed at humans. He sat hunched over, gripping his seat with trembling claws. His scales had lost their color, his eyes darting frantically as if expecting a human marine to kick down the chamber doors at any moment. "Never again," he muttered under his breath, rocking slightly. "Never, never again, brr." A Thalvin ambassador finally broke the silence, her voice unsteady. "Admiral, are you certain this is not exaggerated?" Grashk sighed, giving her a hollow stare. "I was there." The ambassador gulped. The chairman of the council, an ancient, wise being who had seen countless wars, shuffled his notes with shaking hands. "I believe," he croaked. "We have heard enough." Without hesitation, the vote was called. The entire council chamber raised their hands, appendages, or other voting limbs. Unanimous. The human silence protocol was officially enacted. From this moment forward, every major military across the galaxy was ordered. If human forces go silent during combat, retreat immediately. If you hear synchronized laughter, it's too late. Xrathok nodded violently, whispering, "Yes, yes, this is wise. Very wise, Admiral." Grashk simply closed his eyes. He knew it wouldn't matter. Some idiot somewhere would forget, and when they did, he pitied them. A distant battlefield, a dusty wasteland littered with craters and the smoking wreckage of downed war machines. An alien platoon, grizzled veterans of countless campaigns, held the line against a human advance. Blaster fire crackled. Explosions roared, but through it all the humans were laughing. "Man," one soldier chuckled over comms, "I can't wait to get back home and—" Silence. The aliens froze, their weapons lowered slightly, as every single human stopped talking. Not a joke, not a quip, just silence. The alien commander's blood ran ice cold. His hands trembled as he reached for his comm unit. He knew the stories, he'd heard the legends, and now he was living it. "Run!" he bellowed, his voice breaking. "They've gone quiet." The platoon didn't ask questions. They turned and ran, but it was already too late. From the shadows, the humans moved.